Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RV Business Capital Talk, sponsored by Eric Sell. I'm Rick Kessler from RV Business. Joining me, also from RV Business, we have Chris Sayato. And joining the two of us, very special guest, we have, I'm going to really butcher the name, Damir, so I apologize, but Damir Vangelov.
Well done. Thank you.
Very good. And if you couldn't tell, over the Camco logo over his shoulder. Damir is the CEO of Camco. Want to thank you very much for your time this afternoon and look forward to our discussion.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I look forward to chatting to you about the RV business.
The
Very good.
first
Well,
question,
Demir,
Damir, go
I was
ahead.
gonna I was just gonna jump in, and you and I met for the first time out at the NTP Stag Show, which was out here in my hometown of Denver, Colorado, and it was great to meet you then. And why don't you share with our audience about your a little bit about your background, how you came to Camco, and what attracted you to the company?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I have been in consumer goods manufacturing and technology my whole career. I started in finance and operations, and in my last job, I ran a manufacturing company making protein shakes, which we sold. And I took some time off and looked for another company that manufactures products in the United States in the consumer goods category and connected with the board of Camco. They're great folks from New York City. And we started talking about how can we grow Camco as a consumer goods product company, and how can we continue on a very rich legacy that Camco had, which really attracted me. I think the other thing that I was really looking for is a category that is positive with consumers, empowers people to do better in their lives,
Mm.
and actually brings joy when they use our products. And all those things kind of came together for me with Camco. So I started last year. Yeah.
Started last year. Well, congratulations on making it this far.
Thank you. Yes, I'm on month 15 now.
Well, welcome to the industry.
Thank you.
Well, anybody who's anybody knows Camco and its breadth of products. So I'm curious, when you say you're going to grow, you're already big. Camco products, I mean, do you even know what's this number of SKUs that you even have?
Well, we are undoubtedly a leader in the aftermarket place. We have more than 4,000 products, more than 1,500
Wow.
employees across multiple facilities here and around the world. And I think the one thing that Camco really stands out for is the product quality and the breadth of offerings. We
Hmm.
are not only concentrating on certain small categories, we play in many large categories. And we have
Hmm.
been able, via engineering and US-made quality, to really establish ourselves as a trusted brand that makes life easier and more enjoyable for our consumers.
Hmm. I know you can't go into any retailer, RV retailer, and not see a, probably a whole aisle of Camco products. Um, I just can't imagine that the growth strategy that you must have. I'm just curious. I mean, you already make just about everything.
So we do, and that has been one of the core things of Camco. What we have taken really to heart is to figure out what are the real problems that consumers have. And as you know, in the RV business, folks want to come in, hook it all up, and go and enjoy what they want to do. And sometimes things get in the way. What Camco does really well is innovate into the areas that people sometimes don't even know they have problems with. And how can we make that life easier? How can we make the hookup safe? How can we make it very high quality? And that has really helped us grow over the years. Now, what we're discovering is that as we are becoming bigger and bigger in certain categories, we're starting to now take it to the next level. We're introducing specific IP that we own. We have a very large engineering team that is constantly working on making things easier and safer. And we are also starting to look into how do we make the categories bigger. So, for example, we launched a Rhino connector this year and
Hmm.
called Rhino Sewer Hose Adapter Pro.
Yeah.
And I bet you many people didn't even know that they needed it, but it's a universal adapter that clicks in safely. It's fast, easy to use, and it makes lives completely and immensely easier for many people. That thing sold so fast. We have had to launch two more manufacturing facilities just to be able to
Oh,
support.
wow.
And somebody actually called it that's the Stanley Cup of Camco this year for us. So we're very, very happy to be able to actually do the research and actually help consumers identify some of the issues that they may not even have known that had challenges with, and then introduce a product that is good to look at, high quality. It's made mostly in the US, and it actually is introduced at many retailers that our consumers are at versus just say online or just in a specific retailer.
Yeah, Demir, I got to congratulate you on that product. You're absolutely right. It is the hottest seller this year. I've seen Facebook posts among the many RV groups where somebody's all excited because they were able to find one on the shelf somewhere. And matter of fact, Alliance RV just had their rally not that long ago, and somebody even came. They bought all of them that were on the shelf, like four or five of them, and they were selling them on the black market, I guess.
I think here's a funny story for you. We actually saw on eBay people were selling it for 5, 6, or even 7 times the price, and
Wow.
so it's become a little bit of a collector item, I guess, on eBay. So we're pretty happy to see the success, but it shows you a couple of things about Camco. We have the quality and we have the innovation that consumers are looking for, and then we also have the recognition and the engagement of the RV community where they're not just using the product and forgetting about it. They're talking about it. They're sharing it online. They're talking to their friends about it. And I think that is kind of where we're trying to take the company as well. When I say consumer goods, we do mean it. It's a product that is specifically directed to a consumer need. It has a specific consumption occasion, and we are becoming better and better targeting those. And I think then engaging with the consumer after the fact makes things fun. And that's what good brands do, right? They're fun to work with, they're solid, they're reliable, and consumers know what to expect, but they also are happy to associate with them. And I'm pretty happy to report that we have spent probably over a year now retooling the company from a marketing, sales, innovation, and kind of
Mm.
go-to-market perspective to be able to capitalize on all the resources that we have, on all the history that we have, and also on all the quality that we can put out there.
Hmm. The company itself is going to celebrate, I believe, 60 years next year.
That's right.
But it's from what you're saying, I don't want to call it a reinvention, but certainly an evolution of where you're headed next.
And you're absolutely correct, Rick. The way we joke internally is we're the biggest startup, and we have a great idea. It's proven. That's the good thing about being in market for 60 years. But we're constantly reinventing the company. And the one thing that I know is after COVID years, which really propelled the RV industry into the mainstream, introduced completely new demographic of consumers in it, we're now seeing these consumers sticking around and growing. And what that drives for all of us in the industry is we need to take a new approach to this consumer. We cannot be just thinking how we did things the old day. We cannot be just thinking people just want one choice or they just take whatever people give them. What we're finding is for us to continue to grow, not just Camco, but the whole category, and we see ourselves as leader in category, and we want the pie to get bigger for everyone, is how do you make it easier? How do you educate new consumers? How do you help consumers that just joined us, that have never driven an RV or never hooked up a trailer? How do we help them get into it, get excited about it, tell their friends, and actually grow the category for all of us? And we're very excited to be able to do that. And we'll continue to do so. And I think all of that takes not just good products. You can have great products that nobody knows about, but it also talks about this consumer engagement and the brand pool and the back and forth. We quite enjoy what we're seeing on social media with the Rhino elbow. And we're quite happy to see that consumers are talking to us, they're telling us what their pain points are, and we can calibrate towards that.
Very cool. Well, Demir, when I think about Camco, a couple of things I always think about is obviously the branding, strong packaging, but I also think about two different general types of products. You have the functional products like electrical products and sewer hoses, sanitation products, those sort of items. But you also have just like a lot of fun products which make camping fun. Can you talk about a little bit about that lifestyle that is just outside of what people need to go camping, but the things that elevate that camping experience?
Absolutely, and that has been a great education for me over the past year. We have probably a few hundred core category products that we play with, right? Water, sanitation, stabilization, towing, those are the things that you mentioned. And then we go into things like functional accessories, which are, they make your life easier when you don't know that you need something. Think about it,
Mhm.
when something breaks in your house and you go to Home Depot and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know this thing existed. Camco does that for many of our consumers. So we do that well. Now, what we've started doing even better now is to introduce some of these products that are more lifestyle oriented and drive consumers to be happier about their day to day. And if you think about a trailer, there's things that you do on the inside, there's things that you do on the outside, and there's things that kind of make all of that work. And what we want to do is address all of those occasions for our consumers, whether it's a table, whether it's a folding chair, whether it's a connector, whether it's a little light, or even a barbecue. We can actually
Mhm.
help you do that in a good way. And I think as we're getting more organized, as we're getting more disciplined in our go-to-market approach, we want to be able to target all of these occasions with our consumers. I think COVID kind of sold everything, right? And everybody was buying everything and everything was in shortage and all that. And then things normalized. And I think now that the world is more normalized, what we're seeing is consumers are starting to get a little bit more picky. Retailers want us to help them figure it out. And then somebody wants to tie it all together. And we're trying to be that company. We have the knowledge, we have the even how-to guides. We're
Hmm.
starting to put out videos, we're starting to put out comparisons, and we're starting to help the consumer actually understand that it's not just about cords and hoses and buckets and things like that. It's about the enjoyment of the outdoors. And that's why people go there, right? If you think about it, many people go outdoors to go fishing, to go biking, to go out with their pets. They don't think about all these other things, right? So how can we help them enjoy the life that they want to lead? How can we make it more accessible and easier for them? And I think the hardcore things that are the utility are important, but also everything else is important too, right? Kids like nicer things, and dogs have
Sure.
all kinds of needs, and you need to figure out your bike, and you need to figure out your boat, and all those things that we can play and make it a little bit easier, a little bit more fun. We're absolutely up to it.
Um, this reminds me of somebody, wise man once said, life is better at the campsite.
Yes, sir. And that has been a very successful brand for us. We've put out thousands of these products, and I think it's in a very competitive marketplace. When you start going to lifestyle, that's where it becomes a little bit more complicated, a little bit more gnarly from a supply chain point of view. I think the latest developments around tariffs and imports and all that have created a whole set of new challenges for everybody who is in that space. But I think what consumers drive to is what I said before, is they they want to enjoy the outdoors. They want to make it easy. They want to be able to associate themselves with brands that they relate to. And those are the things that we try to do every day. Uh, Life is Better by Campsite, Rhino, Taste Pure, all of our brands, what we're trying to do is to kind of reinforce that messaging with our consumers. It's like, it's not just a must-have product, it's a fun product to have. It's one thing that it's like, oh wow, look at this guy, he has the Camco products, right? And so we're trying to really re-emphasize that with consumers, because that is the reason that we've been in business for 60 years, because they knew it. So now how can we take advantage of that? How can we show them different products that we make? And how can we continue to take them on that journey of, a friend of mine just went first time RVing, and he spent 2 hours hooking the trailer up to the sewer. And I think he broke several things, had to go back to the store, rehook it. that is the core of what we're trying to do. We're trying to minimize that. We're trying to make life easier, or just pick it up on your phone and just see a video and say, oh, that's how this thing works. Now I can do it too. And that's where I think the branding and the communication and consumer engagement is really important for all of us.
Damir, you touched on a couple of times now. Business related question here. How are you guys dealing with tariffs? And maybe even a second part to that is those tariffs have created consumer uncertainty. Have you seen that reflected in your business?
Yeah, so thank you for that two-part question. And so the tariff one for us is a little bit easier. We're largely manufactured in the United States.
Okay.
We've continued to invest in it ever since I came here. We've put in millions of dollars into our facilities in North Carolina and Indiana. So we are definitely a US focused brand. And if you see across the board, like in water, sanitation, stabilization, power, a lot of these products, we're actually not passing on tariff increases. We're not doing any of that because we're largely produced here in the US. Now, some of them have some components or some little bits and pieces that come from overseas. And we've actually been able over the past few months to actually move quite a bit into the US. Now, there's products that we import. There's products that nobody can manufacture but China. So we are working through things like that we need to minimize. We have facilities in Asia as well. We're trying to work with that. We don't have any in China anymore. But we are working through that. And I think what we're trying to do is just to create a little bit of more normalcy for the consumer versus a knee-jerk reaction. And I think our scale, our size, and the ability to work well with retailers has actually shown in a marketplace where we've seen a little bit of stability around that. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think what we're seeing in Q2 is challenges with the weather in the United States, especially on the eastern side of the country, which I think has impacted, I would say, the outdoors activity of any kind. We are seeing some consumer sentiment that is turning negative over the past few months. If you read the things like University of Michigan sentiment surveys and things like that, those are some pretty challenging numbers that consumers are sharing. And I think that is showing up not as much for our sales, but it's showing up a lot in the foot traffic that we're seeing in some of our retailers. If you measure like POS sales, if you measure foot traffic, if you measure, like if you go to Amazon and measure their page views and things like that, all of those things have been trending down over the past few months. And so we're hopeful that as consumers get a little bit more used to the news cycle, as consumers figure it out for themselves, I think we are keeping an optimistic eye towards Q3 in the summer.
Okay.
I think the weather will improve. We all know that. And so we will see that. And I think the consumer may even be benefiting from some of these things because we're probably anticipating more travel towards state parks and national parks in the country versus maybe overseas or flying or going long distance travel. So I think we are still keeping an optimistic eye towards Q3, which is kind of the height of the outdoor season. And I think we're well positioned on how we are approaching that. And so for us, yeah, Q2 has been challenging from a few perspectives. I think probably every CEO in America is saying that. But I think from a consumer point of view, we're continuing to see, for example, we're seeing our share continuing to rise in many major retailers. And we're optimistic that that will continue for us into Q3.
Okay, nice. Chris, unless you have a question, I've got a follow-up.
Hey, go for it, man.
Okay. Damir, one other thing you also touched on a little bit, and that was supporting the retailers. Let's talk about specifically dealerships that carry your products. How do you support those sales?
Yes, so dealerships are core to our business. From big ones to the little guys, all of them are very important to us from many perspectives. Yeah, sales is important, of course. But for us, how these folks touch consumers, how they educate them, how they help them, it's just as important as just what products they're selling. So we have specifically we have the big retailer strategy, which we're good at, we know how to do. I have deep background in all of those. We have also put in quite a bit of effort to actually continue to engage with consumers. We've hired industry veterans. We've developed go-to-market strategies. We're trying to provide them with design services, i.e., how do you make your shelves look better? How do you introduce new products to a shelf that maybe has no space? We've been working with different strategies on how do you quickly introduce a product that you may need over the next 2-3 weeks, but then it goes away. And we see that as a key approach for us, not just for the consumer, because consumers go to these RV dealers, they try to figure it out, but we're also seeing it as that's our community. RV dealerships are our community. They're very important to us. They also not only sell things, they install things, they fix things, they tell people how to use things. And so what we've been very hard at work with, and we're just rolling those out this summer, is how do we create more tools for the dealers to talk to consumers? So if you need to install a hitch, why is a weight distribution hitch better than another hitch? Which hitch is best for your specific trailer? If the one wears off this way, what about the other one? So we're trying to introduce all these knowledge kind of banks, if you wish, not just for the consumer, but also for the folks at the dealership, and help them actually be better partners to their consumers. Because what we believe is that when the dealer has a good connection with the consumer, we actually benefit, all of us, and we're very dedicated towards supporting that.
I'm reminded of another product that was pretty popular. I believe the video came out on April 1st, which happens to be a certain holiday. Any chance I can't even remember what the product was called, but it was an infinite source of water because it recirculated the black tank into the fresh tank through some filters.
So we're not there yet. But we do have a lot of resources dedicated towards our water category. Water solutions category is very important to us. We probably have we're number one share in water filters and things like that in the country. We want to continue to innovate into that. I think for us, a couple of the things that we're trying to figure out is there is the actual hardware, and then there is the chemicals, and then there is everything else. And we're trying to help consumers think through it. So for example, if you look at our TST product line, which is probably the highest share in terms of chemicals in the country, we introduced TST Pro last year, which just received a few awards for innovation. And what we know is that consumers kind of know 75% of it, but they don't know the other 25%, which makes all of the difference. So then when we're talking about education for dealers, for consumers, for us, is if you look at TST Pro and the speed of impact in a tank, nothing else beats it. Nothing else comes close to it. But consumers don't know that. So for those folks that are interested in that, for those folks that want that impact on their tank, we have a product for that. Now, for folks that are not as interested in that, we have other products, right? And then what we're trying to also introduce is we have it in a liquid form, we have it in a pill form, we have it in a 2-pack form. So we're trying to meet the consumer at any point of need and at any kind of challenge that they may have. Now, some of you can say, well, some of the trailers are actually never moving, right? So how do you help a consumer who has a trailer parked at a park and they use it as a second home? Well, we have a whole bunch of products that are specifically more helpful for trailers like that versus a trailer that you take on a 2-day trip to the state park, right? So for us, all this education, sometimes via jokes, sometimes via eBay, sometimes via social media, we're trying to figure it out how to do that. And I think the real big one for us is how do we plug in, how do we get allowed to enter the consumer community so that we can continue to provide them not only with videos that are fun, but also videos that are educational, videos that solve a specific need, and videos that actually make your life easier, and it makes it faster for you to get to what you really want to do, which may be running around with your dog or biking or, being on the boat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, Demir, will we be seeing Camco at the upcoming aftermarket conference for the Industry Association? I believe it's in San Antonio in August.
I need to double check, but I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
We have a very large calendar, so probably doesn't come right off the top of my head, but yes,
I'm sure.
we will probably see you there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good. Well, just as a wrap up, if people are interested in viewing Camco products, can they find those other than RV dealers and retailers? But where can they go online?
Absolutely. Thank you for this question. So we try to be where our consumers are. You can find us in all the big retailers, from the Walmarts of the world to the smaller dealers. We have great relationship with hardware stores, so you can go to even the Menards of the world and farm stores and find Camco products in there. We have a very good presence online via Amazon. So you can just search for Camco on Amazon. We have a great brand store for consumers to see it. And then CamcoOutdoors.com is always open as well. And we've been putting quite a bit of effort into it. So I'm pretty happy to see consumers going there as well.
Very good.
Awesome.
Damir, I want to thank you again for your time. Of course, we want to thank RXL for their continued sponsorship. Damir, look forward to meeting you in person.
That's great. And thank you, Rick, for the time. And Chris, great to see you again.
Yes, for sure.